starting off, for this article, we're kind of focusing in on specifically the Marvel Universe. They've started one with Riverdale and Netflix's Sabrina reboot.
So this is part of the Marvel Universe?
No, they've started their own universe, different companies.
Okay.
But we're noticing a trend just in every movie and TV outlet. The Wizarding world recently is also expanding significantly. So, as a general question, where do you think the concept of movie universes began?
Money.
I agree. I think it's money.
Follow the money.
It used to be sequels were where you make your money at, and you still do, but the problem with the sequel is it comes out every 2 to 3 years. Now, someone goes to the movies, and you show them a trailer for something that's coming out in 4 months. You sell them on the next thing before they've even seen the thing they came to watch.
Well, that even begins in the movie that you went to, where the traditional trailers used to appear at the end of movies. Now they're generally at the beginning or online. You see them all over the place. But they used to be historically at the ends of movies, so they call them trailers. Now, with the Marvel Universe that you mentioned earlier, they have those stinger, I don't know what you call them, preview, I don't even know what they call them, additional scenes.
Yeah, at the end, the mid-credit scene to keep
the
you
sequences
watching.
at the end that kind of link together all of the storylines, and they sort of generate interest. So there's this perpetual machine of, you don't even call them sequels. They're just, like you said, they're sort of integrated. They're kind of sequential in a sense, but they can go back and forth now through time.
And even TV shows are doing that, because they don't want you to wait a year for the next season to come out. They want to sell you on Riverdale. You finish Sabrina, go watch Riverdale. And by the time you finish with Riverdale, hopefully we'll have another season of Sabrina ready to go for you.
Clearly the most interesting character in the Archie universe. Isn't it? It's a reflection of the time, though, that they're spending, they're expanding it away from just Archie,
Yeah.
It has to be Riverdale so that it's inclusive and everybody understands, there's something there for everybody. And we're not just following the traditional male hero through his high school travails, but now it seems like they're going to have to branch off into other areas just to be popular, because it's all about money.
If you could point to a specific film series or film group to kind of like start off this whole concept, what do you think that would be?
Synergy.
The most popular sequels were like, I guess, Star Wars, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean,
Yeah, but
you always had sequels, but in terms of like integrated universes, I mean, when did
the first crossover thing, though.
well, the very first one,
They got
the very
people
first
excited.
crossover? I don't know. I know that D'Artagnan from the Three Musketeers shows up in Cyrano de Bergerac at some point. That's sort of an interesting integrated universe. Then you had like
in horror movies, at the end of Jason Goes to Hell, Freddy Krueger's hand grabs the mask and pulls it down, and it got fans real excited because New Line Cinema had purchased the rights to do Nightmare on Elm Street, and people were really excited.
yeah, but
And it was the first time people considered that there'd be a crossover. They didn't do the movie, though, for 14 years, and it was a completely different studio.
that's not really an integrated universe. That's just
But it opened up the possibility of a... it's not
what,
a great
what year is it?
Jason Goes to Hell was like 91, 92.
So you want the first example, or
The first
the most
like
popular thing?
big one in modern cinema.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Call her Chief.
This is my article.
Okay.
I'm supposed to check that this is good. This is the leader.
Okay. Do you mind if I take this and I'll come back to Carnival's Ring tomorrow?
Is she talking about
Okay,
crossover,
thank you.
or is she talking about?
Integrate, like, so you have two,
That just
you have
seems
two separate
serendipity.
stories that exist in the same world, right?
As
Yeah.
opposed to like,
Not
as
to-
opposed to Star Wars or direct sequels, or
I mean, generally, I thought Star Wars because they started doing the prequels and then they started doing like the animated series and
right?
hmm
building that.
And there was all the fanfic and the novels.
Mhm.
Probably that would be the most obvious example, because those cartoons came out in the 90s, right?
Mhm.
So, and then the prequels.
Yeah.
So you had the now, not in terms of movies, but just in terms of like fiction and fictional representations, that like cartoon, like comic books and novelizations of the movies, and they took different characters and went in different directions.
Does Pixar count? Since they always hint at what the next movie's going to have.
I feel like that's more of an Easter egg,
Fair enough.
but
I
Yeah.
kind of like the idea though that what is it, like Wall-E exists in the same world as somehow as
Toys,
yeah,
stories,
Monsters
yeah.
Inc. You know, I like the idea that they're all just sort of interconnected.
so we know that money is kind of the main motivating force, but how do you think that fans have impacted movie universes and the company's decisions to branch out and make this monstrosity of a universe?
Like in the aforementioned Star Wars,
Mhm.
the recent reboot, not the most recent movie, but the one that preceded it, where they introduced Rey as the main character, and we started following her track. That initial movie, I guess, would be Episode 7. I think would be. Is that right? So, yeah, there were a lot of callbacks to things that people liked. Little, like you mentioned, Easter eggs, but they might even be more sort of substantial motifs. Not just the blue milk, but the idea of a person, sort of an orphan trying to find his or her way through, this experience in this world. So the fans kind of wanted to see that, I think.
Fans want more of the same. In music, we want the same bands. In literature, we want to read the same authors. But with movies, we don't want new original properties. We want Lucas to just keep making Star Wars. We want James Cameron to keep making Terminator.
Yeah,
We want Alfonso Cuarón to come back and do the Harry Potters. Don't let David Yates ruin the franchise.
Very true.
Well, that's the thing with these franchises, is there's always going to be weak links, and you can't appeal to every single person. So they can't sustain themselves. They collapse on their own. I don't know, their own sort of conception of themselves. They can't sustain. They can't keep it. They can't keep it up.
So do you think that these movies in universe kind of use that to prevent themselves from getting bad ratings? Because critics know that, oh, this is a stepping stone. We have to look at it with
As
not
part
so
of
harsh
a larger
judgment.
story.
Yeah.
As far as Marvel's concerned, they've sort of figured out the formula. So they do a pretty good job with appealing across the board, and even DC is apparently, with Wonder Woman and the new Aquaman, is becoming more aware of the critical response, or trying to be popular across the board. But Star Wars failed with Solo pretty much. So the formula's there. I don't know if it always works. Like, the equation doesn't always match up. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I think I got sidetracked by the idea that
Eventually you run into the problem of you don't have something new for the characters to do. There's not a new challenge. There's not a new character arc. You're just rehashing old ideas, whether it's Star Wars or in horror movies. There are only so many times Jason can be a killer or Freddy Krueger
Well, I
can come
think-
out and do something. You
As far as Disney and Marvel and Star Wars is concerned now, I don't think they care what the old fans want. They have to now appeal to 7 through 11-year-olds to keep the machine rolling. So, not that they dumb it down, they're just creating, like, the new droid BB-8 is obsessively cute, you know? So, and he appeals to Star Wars fans, you know, call back to R2-D2, but he also, I think he's really popular with younger kids. And that's the cornerstone of keeping a franchise rolling, is making and creating new fans. So they can just take the patterns that they create with those old films, put in new characters, like you said, keep it rolling.
So
I mean, I don't know about horror movie franchises, but
for the most part, but
as far as Marvel's concerned,
the interesting franchise that doesn't follow these rules is Star Trek. They do very different TV shows, set them in different ages. They're pretty good about waiting a decade or so in between TV shows so that just stylistically they look different. Special effects have gone better, cameras, all that stuff. And then the movies, while they're loosely interconnected, they really can stand on their own. So,
but are they content in their niche? Like they don't care to be number one?
They have seemed to be. Now, I'll undercut myself and say that they are bringing back Luke Picard, Dr. Xavier from the X-Men movies. Patrick Stewart, and apparently they're doing another TV series with him. But for the most, it used to be very separate entities.
20 years after the last film, but
Yeah.
that guy figured it out and went bald early.
Smart.
Right, he has the same look.
I'm
that he
glad
had
you're taking his advice.
25 years ago. No, I did. I should have shaved my head when I was. I should have.